This is your place for all things Detroit Red Wings and all things Chicago Blackhawks. With your hosts, Jordan Linscott, David Barnhouse, Nick LePage, and Tim Stompanato. This is the Stick Blade Podcast. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another edition of the Stick Blade Podcast. This is your place for all things Detroit Red Wings, all things Chicago Blackhawks, and news around the NHL. I'm your host for tonight, Jordan Linscott. I'm joined by my co-hosts, David Barnhouse and Tim Stompanato. On tonight's show, there's not really much to talk about for the Red Wings and the Blackhawks, particularly the Wings, because Steve Yzerman holds everything close to his chest. No real update on the Wings front, just no news. So unfortunately, there's something for us to talk about on the Wings front. Tim, you have something for the Hawks, which is kind of a big deal, though.
Oh, we've got something big for the Hawks. Friends, we have been waiting for it since the end of the season. The Hawks officially have a head coach.
It's not David King, though.
It's not David King. Do we want to get into it? Are we jumping right into this?
No, we'll just jump right in, because after we're done talking about the Hawks, we'll talk about the Stanley Cup finals.
Absolutely. And we'll have to slide in a little something about the Calder finals. Shout out our Chicago Wolves. Not a big deal. However, what is a big deal? Ever since last year, with the firing of the tumultuous and polarizing Jeremy Colleton, we've had the wonderful interim coach, head coach Derek King. We are having an interim coach no more. Derek King is still questionable. We're trying to figure out if he's going to come back to the organization. But what we have is official head coach Luke Richardson. Most recently, let me just pull up my little bit.
Assistant coach to Montreal.
That's right. He was the most recently the assistant coach to the Montreal Canadiens, but most noticeably back in the playoffs in 2021, when the Montreal Canadiens went to the final, he actually was made the interim head coach in Game 3 of the Stanley Cup semifinals against the Vegas Golden Knights, when the coach at the time, Dominique Ducharme, entered isolation after testing positive for COVID-19. This is the guy that outfoxed the Vegas Golden Knights and helped lead the Montreal Canadiens to Cup final, which they really shouldn't have, because look at them this year. They're the worst team overall. Guys, this is exciting. This is, we watched the dominoes fall for like 2 weeks now, where all of a sudden Tortorella's going to the Flyers. We've got Pete DeBoer going to Dallas. You're just crossing off these names that you've heard 1,000 times over and over again. Bruce Cassidy went to the Vegas Golden Knights, and it's like, okay, all the retreads, all the guys that just cycle every year, they're gone. And we've been talking about this with both of us looking for a coaching, waiting for our coach to be announced. I think this is really, really exciting. And the minute I heard that they were interviewing Luke Richardson, I actually got excited. This is a guy that combines the teaching and development side of things that we definitely need going into a rebuild, but he's also a player's coach. Like, this is a guy, there's reports, back when he was an AHL head coach, he was having his guys bag skate, and he was out there skating with them saying, I own this too, let's go. This is a guy that gets players to want to run through a wall for him. And he's also a defensive specialist, which there's no surprise here. The Hawks desperately need that. But this guy's got a great record, because I saw some people saying, well, what separates him from Jeremy Colleton or Derek King? He not only has a fantastic and storied NHL career as a player, but he's also had AHL head coach experience. He's had NHL assistant coach experience with the New York Islanders and the Montreal Canadiens. With the Hawks, this is it. This is the next step. Everybody's got to get their start at the head level somewhere. This is perfect. The stakes are low. Nobody's expecting us to be anything. This is a great time for a new guy to come in who's got that proven background. He's taken that step at every level. Now he can come in with a low stakes environment. And if he's someone that can combine analytics, development, that learning stuff. And then also a player's coach that can get guys to rally, keep the room light, keep it positive, keep them going. That's going to keep us alive next year when we're trudging through some of the darkest period we've had since like the early 2000s.
Yeah. I think it's a good hire. Like you said, like you're not expecting playoffs, cup, anything right now. He's getting his first real taste of being a NHL head coach. Yes, he was able to coach against Vegas in the, semifinals, the conference finals. But he wasn't the actual coach.
Right, exactly.
He didn't get to set his standards, how he wanted things to go, how he wanted the players to move, set up, all that stuff. Now he gets that chance. And like you're gonna have your Chicago homers, of course, that are gonna complain when you guys are losing, but they expect, the 2010s, and you're not in the 2010s anymore. You're in the 2020s. It's a new chapter. It's a new chapter.
Yeah, those are the same people that wanted Barry Trotz or a Daryl Sutter, and those coaches aren't coming here. They want
Trotz is taking time off.
Yeah, I love hearing that. Turned down, he turned down that role with the Flyers. He turned down a role with Winnipeg, but after the Winnipeg one, that's when he said, you know what, I'm taking a step back, spend some time with my family, figure it out from there. Like,
yeah,
awesome. It's so rare that we see people in the hockey world make that choice to be like, I'm gonna focus on me and my family for a little bit. The work will be there. I'll come back. But yeah, the Hawks aren't drawing the premier top of the line head coaches because they want to be someplace where they can win. This is realistically our best case scenario. It's not an unproven, a head coach from a European league. I know, Jordan, you've got your heart set on exactly that, but we just sort of had that. And it's hard I think you guys are in a better position for that than we are currently, to get somebody in who doesn't have the NHL experience to deal with this. I think that Richardson has seen some of the highs and lows of the Montreal Canadiens. He's seen what works. He's seen how some of the big trying to navigate big contracts with entry levels, with trying to fit guys in the middle. This feels like the best possible situation that the Hawks can have right now.
Yeah.
I mean, one thing that's kind of really important to note about this coaching hire is, I know Jeremy Colleton did not have a lot of success with the Blackhawks, but Jeremy Colleton in some ways walked into a very different position than this head coach is walking
100%.
into. When Jeremy Colleton stepped in, yes, he was coming from the European leagues,
but he was also the head coach of the Rockford Ice Hogs at the time. So I want to make sure I give credit where credit is due.
Right. But so Jeremy Colleton was walking into a team where the expectation was make the playoffs, make deep runs happen.
Yeah.
This coach is walking into a situation where there's potentially a lot of roster change coming within the next 2 or 3 years, depending on how the Hawks handle that. And Sam, I'll get into that later if you want to get into that.
I'm so ready to get into it.
But he's also coming into the situation where, since he's not expected to win right away, he can take a season to implement the style of play that he thinks that this roster can work with, and implement systems that he thinks are going to foster long-term success, because there's not this pressure of make it happen now, make it happen now. You got time. He's in a crock pot, not a microwave.
100%. I love that, actually, because that's exactly where he's at right now. I mean, it didn't do Colleton any favors that he came in and you had John McDonough and Bowman and stuff that came out and said, this is a playoff roster. Our one goal is still the Stanley Cup. That did nobody any favors to outright lie to fans. Basically, they knew what the writing on the wall was. And I do want to give credit to Derek King. He also came in an unenviable and arguably harder position than anyone. He was fired. Colleton was fired. The organization was going through the scandal and probably the biggest, black cloud over the franchise's history. Everyone's miserable. They're losing left and right. King comes in to this mess on and off the ice, and he kept the room light. He gave he gave the media something to talk about. He rallied the players a bit. He gave us a little bit of optimism. We weren't going to be good, but we could be fun. And that's okay. It is interesting to note that as of now, it's reported that even though he's not the coach, he is invited, if it works out between Richardson and King, to come back to Richardson's staff. But they have also provided him the opportunity to look at head coaching opportunities elsewhere or coaching opportunities elsewhere. I think that's really classy by the organization.
Of course.
Yeah.
Right.
I was a Colleton supporter. I still think Colleton has a strong, I rode that roller coaster for a long time. I was an apologist. That said, I think he's got a long career ahead of him. He needs to put in the time that Richardson just put in. A couple of years, because he started as an assistant coach in the NHL in 2017. And he spent 3 seasons as an assistant coach in another Ottawa team, like one of the AHL teams, it looks like, and then became the head coach of their AHL team. Mm-hmm. So he's been through all of it.
You got to work your way up.
You learn from there. Mm-hmm. And I think with this pressure off of him, off of the players, off of the organization, nobody's expecting anything. I think we might see some of that development in guys like Doc and Reichel and some of our young defensemen, because they're not looking at that saying, what are you doing? We've got to win. No, that's out the window.
Of course.
I mean, I kind of talked about roster turnover. Do you want to get into it, Tim?
I mean, we're here. Let's do it. I mean, look, the number one question on everyone's minds, Alex DeBrincat. Is he going to be here? Is he not going to be here? Are we trading him this summer? Are we trading him at the deadline? I don't like it. There's going to be a lot of people that are going to argue pro trading DeBrincat because we're in a rebuild, because we're tearing down, because we could get multiple first round picks, players, prospects. Yes, but every single person that we would want, whether it's a pick, whether it's a prospect, we're hoping that becomes DeBrincat. DeBrincat is 24 years old. That's so, even if the rebuild takes 5 years, this is a guy that could still be with the team in the peak of his skills. This is not a player that relies on speed or grinding things out. It's his senses and knowing positioning, where to get to. Like, those are things that age well with a player. To trade DeBrincat, to trade one of the sole hopes and futures of your team, someone that, I get the argument of the contract. It's going to be at least $9 million a year. Who else are we spending money on? I mean, realistically, what's the point? We're not going to be good right now anyway. Give him a 3-year contract. Give him whatever. Give the fans something. Give Patrick Kane someone that he likes playing with. Mm-hmm. It already sounds like Strome. As much as I hate to see it, sounds like Strome's pretty much out the door unless they're able to come to an agreement. Kane loves playing with Strome. He'll be gone. If you get rid of DeBrincat too, arguably the future of this team, the next, people have thrown around, I myself included, that he could be the next captain after Taze is gone someday. Mm-hmm. To get rid of that, to me, signals Patrick Kane's going to be gone.
We'll see. It's crazy to think about.
Is right now, I know the only technical, off the tables are Kane, Taze, and Seth Jones. Seth Jones is a phenomenal number 1 defenseman. He is not what a team in the starting a rebuild has for 8 years. If we were on a different side of it, if this was 2017 and we got Seth Jones for this, amazing. I'm stoked. But it sounds like the organization will not approach Kane and Taze about a trade. It would if there's a trade that happens or a trade request comes in, it will be from Kane or Taze to the organization. It sounds like, for all intents and purposes, all reports coming out of any sources from the Blackhawks are they're going to treat him with class, which good. Again, if we're not going to be good anyway, I'd rather treat the two stars and the two saviors of the Blackhawks, treat them with a little bit of respect. So that's great. Other than that, I know Kubalik's going to be gone. I can't think of any scenario where they keep him even as an RFA. Strome, I still think they can figure something out. I would like to, just because Patrick Kane likes playing with him and DeBrincat. They've got good chemistry. What's the point if we're going into a rebuild?
I think it's a hard situation, right? Because does DeBrincat make your team better? Yes. Does he have good
100%.
chemistry with your superstars? Yeah. Is he a fun player to watch? Yes. And can you scorched earth rebuild this? And we kind of talked about this before the show a little bit. Edmonton and Buffalo are great examples of why you can't just fire sale and hope on high draft picks, because that doesn't work a lot of the time.
Yeah. We've talked about this. We've talked about this in different episodes of this that we've done, where hoping for the potential of a draft pick without the 20 other things that go into that, the development, making sure that the culture is correct, making sure people are in the right position to succeed, etc., the development, the training, all of that has to go into place. And you've got to get the personnel too. There are so many unknowns that go into drafting and developing. To find a guy like DeBrincat, who was a second round pick. And again, you guys have heard my argument before. The entire draft is a crapshoot. You have no idea what you're getting. And to be entirely honest, we're operating, or a lot of people are operating under this idea that scorched earth and making the Blackhawks bad is going to guarantee us like a good pick, which is wild, because even if we are 100% the worst team in the league, we're still only like an 18% chance of getting the first overall pick.
Yeah.
Just ask the Detroit Red Wings. It happened to us 2 years ago.
That's exactly it. Nobody knows better than you guys.
The fourth pick.
Yeah. And now you can't do that. Now we would be guaranteed at least third. I probably because of the heartbreak of Detroit. However, what's the point? Cale Makar was fourth. Miro Heiskanen, I think, was a fourth round pick or fourth overall pick. The Kachucks, like there are so many people you could get between Trevor Zegras, Matt Boley, Moritz Seider.
It probably would never happen again. Datsuk and Zetterberg were 6th and 7th round picks. Like that's never gonna happen.
Lundqvist was an 8th round pick back when they had that. All I'm saying is this league does not really reward tanking, does not really reward scorched earth. The New York Rangers got lucky for their second overall pick and their first overall pick. They didn't tank for that.
They were given the first pick. Come on, let's be honest.
I mean, yeah, I would argue that.
It was the mystery bubble team.
What I will argue is you can do a rebuild without scorched earth, without ruining your organization and putting a bunch of fourth line guys out there. You can do a rebuild like the Hawks are doing and still have DeBrincat. They're not going to get into the playoffs. They're not going to be just barely missing the playoffs. They just don't have the personnel for two or three guys to save that. But why shoot for the lowest overall? First off, it's going to be hard. Arizona is terrible.
Yeah.
Arizona is mathematically one of the worst teams in the league. We're probably not going to beat them even with trying to tank. The goal of being the worst is an asinine goal that I think is ridiculous to try and put forward. So I get that a haul for DeBrincat would be a potential game changer with lots of picks, potential prospects, etc. But why take a guy that is young, is mature, is a leader on and off the ice, is so skilled at his position, and plays a style of game that is not going to fall off in the next 5 years? He can still be here when the rebuild is done. And you have a leader of the organization that has been through the dark times and can rally the team. Like, I don't know. Am I crazy? What are you guys thinking? You've just gotten through a rebuild.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, we have our captain who has been with us through most of the pain.
Yeah.
And he seems to, I think, be stronger for it. Like, he had one of his best seasons this past season. So,
I mean, he was on pace for what, 80 points this season?
Yeah, it was phenomenal.
It's tough. Like, if you can keep DeBrincat, that would be amazing. But teams have to learn. Like you said, look at Buffalo, look at Edmonton. Scorched earth never is really the answer. Buffalo is a trash fire for, a long time now, and they're still going to be a trash fire, even with Rasmus Dahlin and all these players, because their organization doesn't know how to build. And if you give away your top pieces, you're never going to grow. So if you give away DeBrincat, you may not grow.
Well, I mean, look at Ottawa. Ottawa is a perfect example of a team that really knew how to draft and actually developed very well, but they were cheap and traded people when they got off of their ELCs or got off of like their bridge deals. They're like, oh, we don't want to pay them. They'd send them somewhere else. Yep. And Toronto is another one that I think of, not to throw shade at Toronto because they don't need it. They get plenty of it, but they've got the first overall pick in Austin Matthews. They've got a high first round pick in Mitch Marner. They've got a high first round pick. I think Morgan Riley. Morgan Riley, the defenseman. He was 5th overall that year. John Tavares was a first round pick that they signed. William Nylander, I think, was a first round pick. What's it got him? There's so much more that goes into it than just draft picks. That's again, maybe Richardson is going to be able to bring out the best in some of the people that we do have that maybe we develop along. I mean, the Rangers got, escalated their rebuild and they didn't have to tear everything down to the studs. They never got rid of Zibanejad. They never got rid of Kreider. Like, they didn't do the tear down rebuild. We don't have to either.
I mean, even the Red Wings didn't really do a true teardown for their rebuild. Like, I'm trying to think, David, who were
most of your guys were, I mean, you got rid of Tatar and Nyquist.
Like, Tatar and Nyquist were two big moves. At the time, Peter Mrazek was kind of a big move. But other than that, like, they didn't really trade anybody of note away.
Most of the people either retired or LTIR retired or just their contracts were up.
Most of the people we traded, it was just, short-term contracts for veteran players that got a chance to shine with us. And then playoff teams came knocking saying, "Ooh, we could use this extra piece. We'll give you some draft picks for it." It's what you got to do.
That was brilliant. It was a phenomenon. Honestly, you've done a great rebuild.
Yeah.
I can't believe I did this, but I actually looked over a pretty big piece of news this week, David. Moritz Seider won the Calder Trophy. It's official. We've been talking about
the episode. Yeah.
We kind of talked about this, pretty much all season after, or all playoffs after the season was done. It was, I think, pretty unanimous, but Moritz Seider wins the Calder Cup, wins the Calder Trophy. First rookie in 50 something years to win it for the Wings.
Yeah. I mean, well deserved. I hated the people that were like, "Oh, Zegras was having hockey moments," and I'm like, hockey moments isn't rookie of the year. Screw off. Yeah, Zegras was great. But a Michigan goal does not get you the Calder.
Right. We'd all love Trevor Zegras. Nobody's saying Trevor Zegras isn't good, but you hit the nail on the head, David. Hockey moments aren't what gets a guy to that next level. Cale Makar doesn't have hockey moments. He has every day. Like,
he did have that pretty sick overtime goal.
I mean, yeah, listen, his hockey moments are a step above everybody else. But yeah, Moritz Seider, we talked about this all season. I mean, he's the epitome, especially as a rookie, the consistency, the responsibility, the offense didn't come at a sacrifice of defense. I mean, he played like a veteran. It's exciting to see.
God, if Edvinsson can play like him next year, holy smokes.
Like, we've been talking about Cale Makar a little bit, in the ways that Cale Makar is an offensive defenseman. Yeah. I think Moritz Seider excels in the defensive category in that way.
Oh, of course.
Seider is not going to be making big offensive plays, but he does make really good defensive reads.
He does.
Now, does he play perfect? No, no player does in the NHL.
He's
But is
also
a
like
rookie,
19 or 20.
yeah, like there's a 20-year-old logging over 20 minutes a game.
Yeah.
He looks phenomenal.
And the fact that like as a 20-year-old, he is reverse hitting and just leveling, adult men veterans.
Nothing better than a reverse hit.
I love him. I love him so much. I'm so happy. Did you guys hear? I don't know if it's true or not. I was reading it. Why he picked the number 53?
Yeah, for Herbie.
Why?
He was watching Herbie Fully Loaded the night before, and they just asked him what number he wanted. So he was like, "I guess 53."
I mean, here's the thing. Even if like he's joking about that, that's either a hilarious story or a hilarious joke. Like, that's awesome. I love hearing somebody with a, God forbid, a personality with a hockey player.
Why is he watching Herbie Fully Loaded?
Because it's great. Why? It's a piece of cinema.
I loved his his award win speech. I don't know if you guys watched it or not, but he got up there. He's like, "I'd like to thank my parents who aren't here right now because they decided it was more important to be on vacation."
I love him. Did you guys see the video? The two surprise video people in the video for him?
Oh yeah.
The wings like flew a lot of people out to like accept it with him, like Yzerman,
Larkin
was there.
But they made a video, and the two surprises for me were Dominik Hasek and Sergei Fedorov.
Well, I've got theories about your next head coach.
Dude, that was like all the buzz on Reddit. They're like, is it doing the number reds? Oh, is it going to be him? I honestly, though, think since you just brought up head coach, it's going to be one of the Tampa assistants, like Lalonde or
I feel like Yzerman has waited so long to announce a head coach at this point. Like, I stand by. I do want one of those European guys, but I really wouldn't be shocked if it was somebody off Tampa staff.
It would make sense. The timing lines up.
Yep.
That is interesting. No, Oh, go ahead.
So I was just gonna jump to our next thing about speaking of Tampa.
Do we want to talk about the Cup? Or Jordan, I know you wanted to talk about Sebastian Cossa.
Yeah, I mean, so this is one thing. I mean, Sebastian Cossa got drafted last year, 15th overall, bigger goaltender. It was kind of this, I don't want to say contest, but I think for a lot of people, it was either Sebastian Cossa or Jesper Wallstedt was going to be the best goaltender of that draft. So Wallstedt, he's already signed his entry-level contract, I think, with Minnesota because they're the ones who drafted him, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Yep.
But Sebastian Cossa just played in the WHL playoffs, made it all the way to the finals, and they won the WHL championship with, what do you have? I think 5 shutouts. Not a bad stat, all things considered.
Not a big deal. There you go.
Goes on to play in the Memorial Cup. Basically, for anyone who doesn't follow the Memorial Cup, it's the best junior teams are all playing against each other from the separate leagues for this championship. His team lost, I think, by 1 goal in their elimination game. And I think it was like a 3-4 final. Mm-hmm. That's not bad for a guy who got picked 15th overall and put up above average starter numbers.
And again, a lot of that goes into everyone else on the ice. A goalie can't score for you. They can only do so much. So, like, I love those stats, honestly.
Oh, yeah. He's going to look real good in the Griffins jersey next year.
But like, that's the thing. He should be in Grand Rapids next year. And for Detroit to have a goaltender who 1 year removed from draft is already playing at the AHL level, I don't think we've had that. The last 15 years?
I can't.
Even Peter Mrazek, who was arguably our highest goalie prospect of the past decade, didn't have that happen.
Yeah. And I will say, after watching the Griffins play the Wolves this year, you guys could use a little more help in Grand Rapids. No shade towards the Griffins, but it was not a pretty game.
No. But no, I think it's something like to note, like the Wings, this rebuild, it's coming along faster than I think a lot of people are giving it credit for.
Mm-hmm.
100%.
I can't wait. Can't wait till we're hated again.
That said, realistically, I feel like you're in line with what people should expect from a full rebuild. I mean, it's been what, 6 years?
6 years. Yep.
I mean, that's it, right? Like, that's what we're hoping for the Hawks is like 3 to 5. That's me being optimistic. 5 to 6 years is realistically, if we're doing a full rebuild, when we will be good again. I feel like the plan that was set into motion has been efficiently and effectively put forward. You never rushed.
No, and that's the thing. Like when you have patience with a prospect group and you let players develop at the rates that you want them to, and they should be developing without trying to rush a guy through leagues because you want a shiny new toy at the NHL, you get a much better product usually.
So do the opposite of what the Hawks did for the past 3-4 years. I hear that loud and clear. Copy that. Cool.
I mean, you can't undo what happened to Kirby Doc, unfortunately. And
or
I stand
Adam
by
Boquist, or like any of the other players that we rushed a little too soon. But that's exactly what we did, Jordan. There, all of a sudden, it's that rush of, oh, we better get the rookies up to give people something to be excited about, or oh, we're not doing very great. Let's get a spark, a jolt. Let's get the rookie up here. Let's burn that entry level. Come on. And it didn't really do anything. It got us excited, I guess, but like, at what cost? You've got Ian Mitchell, who they talked about and was like, yeah, I burned out real hard last year. And having the whole year in Rockford, he's like, I feel great. I'm ready now. You guys didn't do that. Yeah, I know that sometimes you let people cook maybe a little too long by some standards, but
play it smart.
I would rather have that.
Yeah, you gotta play it smart.
We were talking about Tampa possibly being a coaching potential for the Red Wings. Let's just get into the Stanley Cup Finals. Tampa Bay Lightning versus the Colorado Avalanche.
What a series, boys. That was some of the most exciting hockey I've got. I mean, this whole playoffs has been phenomenal, but this was a Stanley Cup matchup.
It was. I was hoping for 7 games just for the fun of it. But
me too.
It was good to see. You know, congratulations to Darren Helm and only Darren Helm. Screw the rest of them. I can't let it go. I can't let it go.
Good Lord.
I can't let the rivalry go, man.
No, I love it.
E60, man. Go watch Unrivaled. I haven't watched it yet, but I'm planning on watching it this weekend. But no, Darren Helm, 14 years from his first time raising the cup with the Wings. You know, I'm going to say he was the piece they were missing, you know, just saying, you know. But, you know, I brought this up before when the Colorado Avalanche made the Stanley Cup final, put my hat back on. Every time Colorado has won the cup, 96 and 2001, the Red Wings have won it the year after. Just saying. The rebuild is over.
I think Nick said he's putting money on Detroit's future.
God, I wonder what the bet will be for Vegas, like in terms of like odds to win next year for the Wings.
I mean, you'd hit some decent money if you put a bet on it right now, like before the season. All jokes aside,
like $100 would probably win you a couple grand.
That's because listen, I don't think anybody else is betting on that little history lesson you just gave us, David. So if you're feeling strong about it, I'd sneak in now.
All right, let's see. NHL betting odds. You guys keep talking. I'll pull it up and
find it. Got it. No, I mean, Tampa looked good. It's not like they like fully ran out of gas. I mean, everyone was still sharp. They had some phenomenal rallying games. You could definitely tell they weren't just going to give it up to them. I thought Stamkos has looked some of the best that I've seen him.
He did look really good.
A guy that has been through so many injuries and has been, you know, there have been questions about his physical being able to stay in the game. He really he took that next step as a captain this year, as a player. It was so cool to watch. Same with I thought Sergachev really shined. Vasilevsky is, of course, himself. He's an absolute animal. I am happy though. This is now a 3-year streak that Corey Perry has made it to the finals and has lost. And that brings me a deep, deep amount of joy to see him not win a cup. I mean, he's got a cup, but like not win a recent cup. And I don't want him to have any more because he made me mad as a Hawks fan back when we were battling the Ducks over the years. And I don't forget rivalries either, David.
Andre Palat, he really surprised me these playoffs. He was really good.
Palat was incredible. I mean, that reminds me of 2015, back when it was that triplets line of like Tyler Johnson, Kucherov, and Palat. And it's like these kids coming up. Palat sort of became a middle six guy for a couple of years, like chipping in offense, a great secondary scorer. This year as a whole, he took another step, or I should say maybe a return to form. But these playoffs, Jordan, it's like we talked about last week with guys that all of a sudden kicking into another gear in the playoffs. That's what Palat did. He was a treat to watch.
So to jump in, the Red Wings odds are plus 7,500.
That's pretty good.
I might be.
I put a $10 bet on that.
Oh, $10 bet. Add another zero to that. Now we're talking. What are you playing, Junior? I
mean, really, what's $100? It's like what, two nice meals out, and that's it.
So it's 100 times.
Well, you bet 100 to make 7,500, right?
Yeah.
I mean, like that's a pretty good ROI if they win.
I would say, you know what? In a month, I don't know where that $100 went. Bills, food, my mortgage, irrelevant.
But no, I thought like this series was interesting because, like you said, like Tampa made Colorado work for it. Like
100%.
Mm-hmm. Except for that one game.
Yeah, like they had like the one game that was
so
kind
weird.
of a meltdown, but other than that, I really feel like it was really evenly matched. Like, what were they all basically 1 or 2 goal games?
Mm-hmm. Kadri had that overtime winner that like no one saw in the net.
He had the old Patrick Kane of like he saw it go in, nobody else did, and he just sort of waits. Like
I didn't even see it because the net like barely moved. It like got right up in there.
No, that was super cool. It was cool to see Kadri just after so many years of suspensions, people saying, oh, he can't stay in he can't focus, yada, yada, getting traded out of, Toronto, getting to the Avalanche, becoming a huge piece of the Avalanche, going through his journey throughout the playoffs. Man, I'm stoked that he's got a cup. I do not like that they've already dented it.
That has I was just gonna say a cup that has a new beauty mark.
They didn't have it like 10 minutes.
The Stanley Cup official Twitter account goes, it's just another beauty mark.
I love that.
So Cale Makar got given the Conn Smythe, which I actually put this in the group text before they handed it out. That was my pick for Conn Smythe, either him or Andrei Vasilevsky, even though the Lightning didn't win.
Has there been a time? Like, I know there has.
Yes.
When's the last time a loser was given the Conn Smythe?
It's $1 million question.
I can't remember that. But yeah, Cale Makar was my choice as well. Like, he was a beast.
He's just so good. And again, him and Adam Fox are the guys that young defensemen on $9 million a year contracts, like going forward, they're worth it. They're worth every penny. Realistically, that's going to be a steal because those are two guys that are only getting better. They're not regressing. You've seen it every year. Cale Makar is rebranding in my mind what an offensive defenseman is, because I think over the years, I certainly have come to think of Erik Karlsson, Brent Burns, even Hronek, guys that Eric Gustafson was a perfect example, guys that sacrificed defense to make that play. And maybe they play riskier. They get those points, but at the cost of their plus or minus is like 3 at the end of the year. Cale Makar does not sacrifice defense. He pinches a little bit. There's going to be risks in his style of play, but his hustle, his edges, the way that he can get back, the way that he embarrasses guys just around play, the way he skates around the ice, his ability to back check, to make sure that he's still defending, that in my mind is what an offensive defenseman at its peak should be.
Yeah. So I just looked it up. The last time a Conn Smythe winner won on a losing effort was in 2003. Ducks goalie Jean-Sebastian Giguère.
Really?
That's a long time.
That's a very long. I mean, that's pre-salary cap.
They lost to the Devils.
Would that have been like the Brodeur era?
Yep, Brodeur.
Okay.
Yeah,
I mean, I get the
beat
loss.
the defending champions, us.
Wow, that's exciting.
Sebastian Giguère.
I mean, we were.
Will that ever happen again, though? Do you think that's ever going to happen again?
Yeah, I do. And the only reason it's going to be rare, because it has to be someone that just blew. I mean, what's it? The two leading point people in the playoffs were McDavid and Draisaitl, and they haven't played in like 2 weeks. So like, that would be like, if they had made it to the finals and maybe got beat, you could maybe argue McDavid or Draisaitl. But you've got to be someone that is so head and shoulders above everyone else that put forward like that Herculean ability. It's going to be rare. It shouldn't happen more than once every like 10 years. Yeah, but it's possible.
Okay.
It's based. I feel like that's reserved only for true superstars.
Right. Exactly. Or
like
guys
Jean-Sebastian Giguère.
Yeah, because I was gonna say like, or guys that put up that superstar effort in in the playoffs. But yeah, I mean that's super. Shout out Makar,
how sad would it be to get that trophy when you lose? Like, oh, thanks.
Yeah, I get it. To be everyone else on the team that's like, well, I guess you got something cool. Guess the rest of us were scrubs. Good job, bud. But no, like shout out Makar on a team where like Nathan McKinnon is your number one center. That's a big deal.
Yep.
I'm trying to think who won it last year. It was Victor Hedman, right?
Yes. Victor Hedman won one of the Tampa runs.
I think he won it last year, and then Vasilevsky won it the year before.
It was Vasilevsky last year, Hedman the year before.
Okay, so that makes sense. I'm trying to think of forwards that have won it in recent years, because 2015 it was Keith.
Ovechkin 18, 17, and 16 Crosby.
Yeah, okay.
But no, Cale Makar, I think he kind of is redefining, like when we look at an offensive defenseman, what you're looking for. The NHL keeps getting faster, and these defensemen who can skate and actually make up for the defensive lapses when they try to pinch for offense a little bit better, that's what's going to make or break, I think, a lot of these new generation of offensive defensemen.
Well, and I think that it's showing GMs that you don't just have to accept that, hey, this guy's an offensive defenseman. He chips in like great offensively. He's going to be a liability. You don't have to accept that with him, Adam Fox, even Miro Heiskanen. Like, you're seeing this new crop come up where they're like, no, I'm still a defenseman, but I am still going to outscore half your forwards. Like, your team's going to need that realistically. Yep. You can't just rely on the offensive defenseman that you hide on your second or third pairing.
Like, you can't just park those people on your power play and tell them just keep getting fed at the blue line and smack it home.
They're all just modern day Nicholas Lindströms. Let's just be honest.
Nicholas Lindstrom, again, Duncan. I know Duncan Keith's not an offensive defenseman, but the way that he chipped in his pass, like things like that. Some of these guys that were standouts in the past 10, 20 years now are becoming that norm. And there's going to be new standout. Again, Cale Makar is a stand. Like these are standouts. Let's not get it twisted. There's maybe like 3 to 5 defensemen in the league that can be who they are right now. Let's not talk like every team's got this, but it's still definitely something that this is the new wave of defensive superstars.
Mm-hmm. At least the ones that are like superstars because they're constantly putting up points.
Right, exactly. Because you'll still have your guys like a Moritz Seider, who is going to put up points simply by the nature of his responsibility in the way that he plays. He's creating plays. He's not focused on offense, but he's still a number one, the way Victor Hedman is, honestly. Offense will come when you do the right thing, but defense is your first priority.
Yep.
All
right.
I'm trying to think. So obviously Colorado won it this year. Tampa won it the past 2 years before. Let's see. Has anyone from the Central won it recently?
St. Louis.
Colorado.
Oh yeah, Colorado.
Colorado's in the Central. They were.
That's crazy to me.
I mean, the whole way that that's all working. The fact that Nashville's in the Central and not in like an East team is still kind of wild to me too. But I don't design it.
We don't draw maps.
Yeah, I don't draw maps. Frankly, I'm no cartographer. I'd send Nashville and bring Detroit back personally. But
then we can't have Detroit versus Colorado in the Stanley Cup final to reignite the rivalry when our dynasty is reborn.
That's true.
That's
true. The last Central team, well, the Blues.
I said the Blues, yeah.
Yeah, that before them, the Hawks.
Yep.
It's crazy though, like how, I don't want to say off the wall, but how interesting like the last couple champions have been. Like a lot of teams that looked like they would have won, aside from Tampa, haven't won the years they've been expected to win.
That's it's also cool to see more one-off teams. This is Tampa's first year, or not Tampa. This is Colorado's first cup in the salary cap era. The Blues got theirs. The Capitals got theirs. Like, there was such a period of time where it was Pittsburgh, Chicago, LA, with a little bit of Boston thrown in there, and Boston and Vancouver always in the midst of it, same as the Ducks. Like, you had the same teams.
Yep.
In fact, somebody was even talking about, a reporter was talking about the other day, I know that Bettman, touts the salary cap era as parity, but I've been covering this. It feels like I've been covering the same 10 teams for the past like 10 years plus. It's cool to see some of these one-off ones and not just the same people that we've gotten so accustomed to seeing.
Yeah.
So what, the draft is in 2 weeks. I don't know if we're going to have a draft. Was it?
It's next week, the 7th.
Well, next Monday will be the 4th. So we're not going to have an episode on the 4th of July.
No. Happy birthday, America.
We can recap the draft. That's fine.
But,
yeah. Again, like I said, I think I said this before the show, there's nothing I can provide to the draft because outside of the first round, I have absolutely no concept of who is really available.
So unfortunately, we're not going to be able to do a pre-draft special. That being said, just really quick, obviously, unfortunately, Tim, your guys' first round draft pick that would have been like what, 6th or 7th this year is gone.
I'm so mad. I'm so glad that we got a first pair of defensemen going into a rebuild, and we got rid of a really cool prospect and a bunch of first round picks and what could have been a lot of nice things. No, this is fine. I'm cool. Go ahead.
So going into this draft, though, if you're Kyle Davidson and you're going to draft a player, obviously, that you're looking for at your rebuild, what position do you think that the Hawks need to look at and take with their first round draft pick? Assuming, like, obviously you assume the first round draft picks are the highest ceiling players.
But they don't have a first round pick, I thought.
But if we trade for a first round,
yeah, but like, if yeah.
I honestly, I know we've got Kirby Doc and we've got Reichel. It would not surprise, and Taze, of course. God, how could I forget the captain? But he's also older, yada, yada, yada. I think if we were able to trade and get a first round pick, I think we would go for a center realistically. Somebody that's not just some skill above all else forward, somebody that's well-rounded, somebody that can chip in offensively, someone that's got a high ceiling, someone that we can try to build around. I think if we don't go for that, I think we go for a scoring winger. I think that we've gotten so many young defensemen in the pipeline that, especially with the way that we've got Murphy, McCabe, and Jones locked in with so many young guys like Mitchell, Bodin, Vlasic, Galvis, Regula, I could go on, Isaac Phillips. What we need is secondary scoring right now. Secondary scoring that can evolve into primary scoring. That's what we should go for, is either a center or a winger that knows their game.
Yep. Okay.
What are you guys looking for?
Center.
Yeah.
We need a second line center.
Yeah, I mean, I got to agree. It's got to be a center. Dylan Larkin, and this is no knock on P.S. Suter, but Dylan Larkin needs another high-end center to play with. And Detroit's picking at a point this draft where you can probably find another high-end center. You're probably not finding the franchise guy, but you're still going to probably find a 1B center at that.
Trevor Zegras was in that pocket. So, I mean, Alex Newhook, Dylan Cozens, it's
we
there.
We can get lucky. I trust Eiserman.
But yeah, I feel like the center's got to be the thing, because Detroit doesn't need defensemen anymore, in my opinion. They've got Moritz Seider, they've got Simon Edvinsson, Philip Hronik, you imagine, will slot down to a middle pair defenseman like he probably should be.
Berggren is knocking on the door.
Berggren's knocking on the door, so they don't really need to pick up like any guys like wingers, I would say. You've already got Rasmussen, Fabry, Verana, Zadina. Center's the only pick that makes sense here at this point.
Yep, for sure.
Because unless Steve Yzerman's going out in free agency and is going to ink one of these $9 million centers, which I don't think's happening this offseason.
Get Malkin.
Detroit would go in flames, man.
I'd be so excited. Honestly, I would love the chaos of Evgeny Malkin on the Red Wings.
That would be such an uncomfortable moment, I think, for him on the ice when he first steps on in that uniform.
That would be pure chaos. And of course, I'm going to support that always. But yeah, I don't see it realistically.
It'd be Ricky Bobby from Talladega Nights. I don't know what to do with my hands.
I mean, that sounds like Malkin, to be entirely honest, with like 10 watches on. That would be great. But no, you're absolutely right. Unless you get one of the like premier studs in free agency, or somehow steal John Tavares, or maybe, somebody like that, draft makes sense.
Yep.
I think that's it for our show, though. I don't have anything else on our docket to go through. Unfortunately, not a ton to talk about for the Wings or the Hawks this episode, aside from just the quick points we hit on. For anybody who's still listening, we appreciate you guys checking out the show. Feel free to follow us on either Facebook, YouTube, SoundCloud, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Twitter. We've got email. Just plenty of ways to find us. Feel free to get in touch with us on any of the social media platforms and give us the social media currency of choice on those platforms. It's always nice and gives us a little boost. But yeah, that's it for our show. Again, for your host, Jordan Linscott, and for my co-hosts, Tim Stompanato and David Barnhouse, this has been another edition of the Stick Blade Podcast. We will catch you guys all back here in about 2 weeks or so for a pre-draft episode. We'll catch you guys then. Later.